Survival on the river begins with understanding the materials at hand. She strips the outer cortex of the bamboo, exposing the durable fibers beneath. This preparatory work prevents rot when the wood is submerged. Green bamboo is driven straight into the soft riverbed to form the foundation of a spring-loaded trap. The mud acts as a natural cement, gripping the hollow grain tightly. Working with the current, rather than against it, requires vertical stakes to absorb the force of the water. She trims the excess length, leaving the exact leverage needed to support a flexible upper frame. With the joints carved, the structural assembly relies entirely on tension. Fresh forest vines serve as a resilient lashing material, far superior to synthetic ropes that degrade in the sun. When wet, the plant fibers expand slightly, locking the bamboo crosspieces into a rigid, unified skeleton. Wrapping the joints requires a precise, tight coil to distribute the mechanical load evenly across the frame. A well-lashed joint can withstand the constant, shifting pressure of a flowing river for months without failing. Using the braided cord, thin bamboo rods are lashed vertically to form the walls of the trap. Spacing is critical here. The gaps must allow water to pass freely while blocking the fish. This permeability prevents the structure from acting like a dam, which would quickly wash away under the hydraulic pressure. Every knot adds stability, reinforcing the underwater fence. The mechanical core of the trap relies on a delicate balance of stored energy. Long, flexible bamboo poles arch over the water, acting as natural tension springs. She attaches a small horizontal trigger stick to the vertical rod, suspended by a fine line. This hair trigger mechanism uses the friction of the wood itself to hold the immense pulling force of the bent pole. Even the slightest nudge from a passing fish will disrupt the friction, releasing the spring. The release is instantaneous, violently snapping the line upward. This rapid vertical pull hooks the fish and immediately lifts it out of the strike zone, preventing escape. Because the mechanism resets easily, a single structure can act as an autonomous fishing array, working day and night. She repositions the small trigger stick, finding the exact point of balance again. The bamboo trap is now fully armed, a silent hunter waiting in the current. Patience does the rest. While the river does the hunting, a small fire provides necessary warmth. The contained blaze uses dry twigs and leaves, producing minimal smoke while establishing a bed of hot coals. Efficiency in the wild means never waiting idly. Every moment is utilized. The first yield confirms the trap's design. Small, silver fish are drawn to the structure, triggering the sensitive bamboo springs exactly as intended. Processing the catch immediately is vital to prevent spoilage in the humid air. Using a small blade, she scales and guts the fish on the riverbank. Removing the internal organs quickly stops the enzymatic breakdown of the flesh, preserving the delicate meat. The clean river water washes away the blood, leaving the fish ready for the fire. Small daily catches sustain the energy needed for larger projects. As the lines continue to trigger, the harvest accumulates. A red bucket becomes a temporary holding tank, keeping the processed catch safe from scavengers. Checking the mechanisms repeatedly ensures the tension lines aren't tangled or weakened by the struggles of the fish. A well-maintained trap requires constant vigilance, but the caloric return far outweighs the physical cost of resetting the triggers. The river provides, but only to those who understand its rhythms. Diversifying the food supply means employing different tactics. A curved bamboo rod allows her to reach deeper, murkier pools where larger fish take shelter from the sun. The flexibility of the rod acts as a shock absorber. It tires the fish out without snapping the delicate hand-tied line. A quick upward pull sets the hook and secures the silver catch. Targeting bottom feeders requires specialized bait. She prepares a small hook, keeping her supplies organized near the bank. Placing the live catch into a bucket of murky water reduces their stress, keeping the meat firm until it is time to process. The cloudy water mimics their natural environment, providing a dark, cool sanctuary. Handling the fish gently, without bruising the flesh, ensures the fillets will remain pristine for the long-term preservation phase ahead. To draw a larger school, she creates a nutrient-dense chum. Mixing a starchy powder with egg yolk produces a highly fragrant, binding paste. When poured into the river, the heavy, granular mixture slowly dissolves on the rocky bed. It creates an irresistible scent trail that flows downstream, pulling fish directly toward her position. With the fish gathering, she transitions to a cast net. This circular mesh requires meticulous preparation. A single tangle will ruin the spread. She sits in the shallows, methodically clearing the lead weights along the bottom edge. The weights must be evenly distributed to ensure the net sinks quickly, trapping everything beneath its dome. A properly folded net is the difference between a massive haul and an empty haul. A mid-river rock provides the perfect vantage point, elevating her above the strike zone. From here, she can read the water, watching for the subtle flashes of silver beneath the surface. Casting a heavy net is an exercise in applied physics. Rotational momentum is transferred from her hips through her arms, throwing the weighted skirt outward in a perfect circle. As the net hits the water, the lead line immediately plunges to the riverbed. This creates an inescapable physical barrier, a dome of mesh that closes around the feeding fish. The expanding ripples mask the movement above, while the clear water below reveals the trap snapping shut. Retrieving the cast net requires a slow, steady pull. Yanking the mesh would lift the lead weights off the bottom, allowing the catch to dart out underneath. By dragging the heavy, waterlogged net across the stones, she tightens the purse strings. The trap slowly shrinks, safely corralling the fish into the center pocket as she pulls it onto the dry rock. The fine nylon mesh easily entangles the dorsal fins, requiring a gentle hand to extract the catch. Tearing the net would compromise future casts. She carefully backs the fish out of the snare, transferring it to the waiting bucket. Every successful throw adds crucial protein to the stockpile, preparing her for the lean days ahead. After repeated casts, the local fish grow wary. To reset the environment, she tosses more bait into the clear shallows. The sudden splash mimics falling insects or dropping fruit, triggering a predatory response. Within moments, the surface ripples as curiosity overcomes caution, bringing the school back into the feeding zone. Observing the fish behavior is equally as important as the mechanics of the catch. By watching their movement patterns, she determines the precise angle and timing for the next throw, maximizing the efficiency of her energy expenditure. Changing locations prevents overfishing a single pool. Moving near the overhanging branches, she targets the shaded areas where larger predators wait in ambush. The dense root systems and submerged branches make casting here incredibly risky. A snagged net can easily tear on the sharp underwater debris, ruining hours of careful weaving. She wades through the shallows, pulling the mesh clear of the hazards. Lifting the net into the light reveals the reward for taking such a calculated risk. Navigating the varied microhabitats of the river ensures a diverse and abundant harvest. The final cast of the session requires the perfect spread to maximize the haul. Thrown high into the air, the net blossoms completely, covering the maximum surface area before it crashes down. The heavy lead sinkers drag the canopy to the rocky bottom in seconds. Pulling it back toward the rock, the resistance in the line is immediately different. The weight is substantial, signaling a significant catch. As the mesh clears the water, the vibrant flash of a large orange fish breaks the surface. This is a prize catch, offering rich, fatty meat that is ideal for long-term smoking and curing. The river has provided an abundance, turning a foraging trip into a major caloric victory. Securing this large fish guarantees that the intensive labor of the upcoming preservation process will be well worth the effort. With the sun dropping, the harvest phase is officially complete. Transporting the day's haul requires consolidating the catch. She reaches into the chilled, flowing stream water to retrieve the live fish stored among the rocks. The cold water has naturally slowed their metabolism, keeping them calm and preserving the muscle quality. Every fish is carefully lifted and deposited into the plastic bucket, their scales shimmering in the diffused light. But plastic traps heat and depletes oxygen. To carry the heavy load back to camp, she transfers the entire catch into a woven bamboo basket. The natural gaps in the bamboo weave allow air to circulate and excess water to drain away. This reduces the carrying weight significantly while keeping the fish cool and ventilated during the long trek out of the valley. Back on dry land, the preservation process begins immediately. Using a clear plastic board on a flat river rock, she starts the meticulous work of cleaning the fillets. A sharp blade is essential. Crushing the meat with a dull knife ruptures the cellular structure, leading to faster spoilage. She makes a deep, decisive slice down the dorsal line, completely separating the flesh from the spine. Butterflying the fish like this serves a vital purpose for curing. It drastically increases the surface area of the meat, allowing salt and smoke to penetrate deeply and evenly. Without this precise cut, the thickest part of the muscle would rot from the inside out before the heat could reach it. She presses the blade through the tough cartilage, cleanly removing the head. The heads and bones won't be wasted. They make excellent fertilizer or bait for future traps. Rinsing the butterflied fillets in the flowing stream is the final step of the butchery. The cold, clear water flushes away any residual blood or digestive enzymes that could introduce bacteria. A completely pristine surface is required for the complex spices to bind properly to the raw flesh. To guarantee the marinade reaches the core of the fillet, she scores the skin with deep, parallel cuts. These open channels act as pathways, drawing the salt and curing agents directly into the thickest muscles. With the structural prep finished, she lifts the pristine meat toward the metal basin. The chemistry of flavor and preservation is about to begin. The curing paste is a potent mix of natural preservatives. She starts with a base of thick, vibrant orange seasoning, rich in antimicrobial compounds. Sprinkling a fine, light-colored powder over the top adds the necessary salt and dry spices. Salt is the primary engine of preservation, designed to draw moisture out of the fish through osmosis. Mixing the ingredients by hand ensures a perfectly homogeneous paste. The warmth of her skin helps release the essential oils locked within the spices, blooming the flavors. This thick, abrasive rub will form a protective crust against insects and airborne bacteria during the drying phase. Applying the marinade is a labor-intensive process. She takes each butterflied fillet and vigorously rubs the reddish-orange paste into every crevice of the flesh. The scored cuts she made earlier now serve their purpose, accepting thick pockets of the spiced cure. Complete coverage is non-negotiable. Any exposed, unseasoned meat becomes a breeding ground for bacteria in the humid jungle air. The vibrant spices not only impart intense flavor, but also act as a chemical barrier. Once heavily coated, the fish is transferred into a clear, plastic storage bin. She packs the fillets tightly against one another in neat rows. This dense packing minimizes the air gaps between the pieces, creating an anaerobic environment that forces the salt to pull moisture directly from the meat, rather than drying out the surface too quickly. As the salt goes to work, the fish will naturally create its own heavy brine. By stacking them neatly, the weight of the top layers presses down on the bottom, accelerating the extraction of water. The preparation is methodical, turning raw protein into a shelf-stable resource. With the entire catch processed and packed, she washes the heavy spice residue from her hands. Closing the lid on the plastic bin seals the fillets tightly in their own concentrated brine. The fish will rest in this sealed environment, allowing the cure to fully penetrate the cellular walls before the heat of the fire is applied. A proper smoking setup requires a custom framework. She hammers a nail through thin strips of green bamboo, constructing a wide, flat grid. Green bamboo is the ideal material for a grill grate because its high internal moisture content prevents it from catching fire. The wide grid pattern ensures maximum airflow, allowing the heavy smoke to circulate freely around every piece of meat. The sturdy frame is now ready to support the weight of the massive harvest. She arranges a bed of dry hardwood branches, establishing the core of the fire pit. Lighting the tinder, she coaxes the flames to life, aiming for a slow, smoldering burn rather than a roaring inferno. The goal is heavy smoke and indirect heat to slowly dehydrate the meat without cooking the outside too fast. She places the first marinated fillets onto the green bamboo frame, positioning them high above the flames. The heat immediately begins to set the spice crust, locking in the flavors. The scale of the operations is massive. By placing a flat wooden board over the center of the pit, she dampens the open flames, forcing the wood to produce thick, choking smoke. The rows of butterflied fish are bathed in this constant updraft. The smoke acts as the final preservative, layering the meat with phenols and acidic compounds that stop microbial growth. Slowly, the bright orange flesh transforms into a deep mahogany brown. While the fish smoke, she prepares the long-term drying rack. Securing black plastic mesh over a bamboo frame provides a breathable, elevated platform. The fine mesh keeps the curing fish safely off the damp ground, promoting 360-degree air circulation. This step is crucial for the final cure. Hours of constant heat and smoke have fundamentally changed the structure of the meat. She collects the dark, dry fillets from the rack. The fish are now fully cooked, their moisture content drastically reduced, leaving behind dense, highly concentrated protein. The spice crust has baked into a hard shell, locking the natural oils inside while repelling moisture from the outside air. Moving the bamboo poles over the dying embers allows her to fine-tune the drying process. Any remaining pockets of moisture in the thickest parts of the flesh are slowly drawn out by the residual radiant heat. Pressing the flesh confirms it is firm to the touch, the ultimate sign of a successful smoke. This slow, methodical dehydration ensures the harvest will remain edible for months without refrigeration. The final stage of preservation relies on ambient airflow. She gathers the stack of heavily smoked fish and transfers them carefully to the black mesh rack. Placing them in a shaded, well-ventilated area allows the meat to cool down slowly. Rapid cooling could cause condensation to form on the surface, ruining the dry crust she spent hours building. Arranging them in a single even layer ensures that every fillet receives equal exposure to the dry forest breeze. This natural air curing removes the last trace of surface moisture, finalizing the complex transformation from perishable catch to durable survival ration. The hard-earned harvest is now fully secure. Once the fillets are completely cool and stiff, it is time for storage. She inspects each piece on the drying rack, ensuring the golden brown flesh has achieved the perfect leathery texture. The fully cured fillets are then packed tightly into a heavy, dark brown ceramic jar. Ceramic is an excellent insulator, protecting the dried meat from temperature fluctuations and keeping out pests. Sealed inside the thick clay walls, the smoky flavors will continue to mature and deepen over time. What began as a raw river catch is now a reliable food vault. With the food supply secured, her focus shifts to a larger, more permanent infrastructure. She wades back into the stream carrying massive, freshly cut bamboo poles. This project will harness the river's natural choke points. Kneeling in the current, she uses a handsaw to cut the thick bamboo down to precise lengths. Sawing through the tough, silica-rich fibers of mature bamboo requires a sharp, serrated blade to avoid splintering the wood. Clean cuts ensure that the joints will fit tightly, a necessity when building a structure meant to withstand the relentless force of flowing water. The concrete dam in the background dictates the speed of the current here. She plants the main vertical support directly into the rocky riverbed. Pushing the pole deep into the substrate, anchors it against the lateral push of the water. This single post will bear the brunt of the hydraulic pressure, so finding a solid foothold among the submerged stones is critical. With the foundation set, she lashes a horizontal crossbar to the vertical mast. Using heavy-duty plastic zip ties provides an incredibly strong, rigid connection that won't rot or stretch when submerged, unlike natural vines. The sharp mechanical grip of the plastic bites into the green bamboo, preventing the crossbar from slipping down under heavy loads. This simple T-frame creates the backbone for a massive funnel trap. She drapes a large dark green synthetic mesh over the structure, positioning it directly in the center of the flow. The current catches the net immediately, billowing it out like a parachute underwater. By placing the trap directly downstream of the concrete dam, she is capitalizing on the high-velocity bottleneck. Fish traveling through this channel will be swept straight into the waiting mouth of the mesh. The force of the water threatens to lift the lightweight mesh. To counteract this, she anchors the bottom edge of the net firmly against the riverbed using heavy, flat stones. Sealing the bottom edge is vital. If even a small gap remains, the fish will naturally hug the bottom and slip underneath. A trap is only as good as the path leading into it. She begins stacking rocks on either side, engineering a V-shaped funnel in the stream. This artificial rock wall chokes the river, forcing the entire volume of water to accelerate through a narrow opening. By altering the hydrodynamics of the stream, she removes the element of chance. Fish traveling downstream have no choice but to follow the path of least resistance, straight into the open net. She slides a final, moss-covered stone into place, plugging the last escape route. The engineering is now fully complete. The water now surges violently through the confined bottleneck, creating a highly oxygenated current that naturally attracts feeding fish. The green mesh inflates fully, held wide open by the rushing water. Because the rocks block the outer channels, the net becomes the only navigable path forward. Standing back, she observes the flow to ensure the structure holds against the continuous pressure. The trap perfectly integrates with the environment, using the river's own energy as the driving mechanism for the harvest. It is a passive, completely relentless system. To maximize the yield, she sets up a secondary array of bank lines along the deep edge. She carves a sharp point onto a sturdy length of bamboo, creating a ground stake. Using a hammer, she drives the sharpened pole directly into the hard earth alongside the concrete dam. This location is strategic. The deep, still water adjacent to the concrete wall is a natural resting place for large predatory fish. By planting a series of vertical posts securely in the bank, she creates a rigid framework capable of handling heavy, aggressive strikes. The massive concrete dam provides the perfect steep drop-off zone. She ties a heavy-duty monofilament line directly to the flexible tip of the bamboo stake. The tall bamboo pole will act as a massive strike indicator and a shock absorber. When a large fish takes the bait, the flexible tip will bend violently, tiring the animal out while preventing the line from snapping under sudden tension. She repeats this process, stringing a series of independent lines down the length of the concrete bank. This multi-line approach allows her to cover a massive expanse of water simultaneously, testing different depths and baits without constantly casting. The bank is now rigged as a continuous snare, silently monitoring the dark water. The setup requires minimal energy to maintain, yet offers a high probability of success. Returning to the rock dam, the funnel trap has done its job. Carrying a woven basket and a white plastic bucket, she carefully navigates the slick, submerged river stones. She reaches deep into the belly of the green mesh, feeling for the frantic vibrations of trapped fish. The force of the water pins the catch against the back of the net, making them easy to corral. Submerging the white bucket inside the mesh allows her to scoop the fish up without lifting the heavy, water-filled net out of the stream. This method is highly efficient, preventing any chance of the slippery catch leaping back into the open current. Lifting the bucket from the water reveals the success of the rock funnel. Several large fish splash wildly against the plastic walls, completely outmatched by the simple hydrodynamics of the trap. The barrier wall she engineered channeled them perfectly into the mesh, exactly as designed. Checking the depths of the net again ensures no stragglers are left behind. Standing in the rushing river, she holds a bucket heavy with protein. The combination of the passive net and the active bank lines ensures a constant influx of resources. The river ecosystem, when properly understood and respected, yields an incredible, sustainable surplus. She secures the catch, preparing for the evening shift. As the sun dips lower, the behavior of the river changes. Predatory fish leave their deep-water sanctuaries to hunt along the concrete edges. She takes hold of the main bank line, relying on tactile feedback rather than sight. In the dimming light, feeling the subtle vibrations transmitted up the string is the only way to detect a cautious bite. Patience and hyper-awareness define this style of evening fishing. She waits for the distinct, heavy pull. The tactile vigilance pays off. She holds up a solid catch, proof that the predators are actively feeding near the dam. But the window for this evening bite is short, requiring rapid redeployment of the bait. With practiced fluidity, she swings the weighted line in a wide arc, building centrifugal force. Releasing it at the apex, she sends the hook flying far out into the dark, rippling water. The heavy sinker drags the bait down into the strike zone immediately. Night fishing strips away the visual cues, reducing the hunt to pure mechanics and instinct. The fading light over the concrete dam marks the end of the long harvest cycle. She has exploited every layer of the river, the shallow rapids, the deep pools, and the concrete drops, maximizing the yield. The day ends with a heavy basket and the promise of a well-stocked larder. The next phase of the survival economy shifts from protein to greens. Deep in the humid forest, the shaded understory provides the perfect microclimate for wild fiddlehead ferns. Kneeling in the dense brush, she targets the young, tightly coiled fronds before they unfurl. Once the leaves open fully, the plant becomes fibrous and bitter, making timing essential for foraging. She quickly accumulates a vibrant green bundle, expertly navigating the thorny undergrowth. The damp forest floor offers an endless, perfectly renewable crop if harvested sustainably. A delicate touch is required to snap the stem cleanly at its most tender point. She reaches into the thicket, her fingers instinctively finding the natural breaking point of the stalk. Harvesting only the top sections ensures the root system remains intact, allowing the fern to regenerate rapidly. This sustainable approach guarantees a reliable food source for future trips. Carrying the growing bundle, she moves steadily through the dense greenery. The physical labor of foraging is constant, requiring her to cover vast swaths of the hillside to collect enough mass for the market. The steep, tree-lined hillside offers a massive, untouched patch of vegetation. She works systematically, pulling large handfuls of the crisp greens from the dark soil. The overcast sky keeps the ambient temperature cool, preventing the delicate ferns from wilting immediately after being picked. The scale of the harvest is impressive. Processing the harvest for the market requires strict quality control. Kneeling by the cool stream, she meticulously sorts the gathered ferns, discarding any bruised or overly mature fronds. Presentation dictates value. Uniform bunches command a higher price and trade value. She gathers a massive handful, aligning the stems perfectly before securing them. Using a thin, flexible forest vine, she wraps the bundle tightly. The natural vine is strong enough to hold the tension, without cutting into the delicate stalks like synthetic string would. To finalize the presentation, she employs a large curved blade. A single, heavy chop cleanly severs the uneven, jagged stems, creating a perfectly flat base. This clean cut not only looks professional, but it also slows moisture loss, keeping the ferns crisp during transit. The wild harvest is now a refined market-ready commodity. She inspects the uniform work. Transporting the heavy yield requires endurance. The packed woven basket acts as a natural backpack, distributing the weight of the dense, water-rich ferns evenly across her shoulders. Navigating the slick, muddy trails of the steep mountain demands careful, deliberate footing. Finally, breaking out of the dense jungle canopy, she transitions onto a paved rural road. The landscape opens up, revealing the vast distance between the wild foraging grounds and the local community. The physical toll of carrying the heavy load for miles is the hidden cost of this off-grid economy. Arriving at the bustling village market, the environment shifts from isolated survival to active commerce. She secures a small patch of dirt among the established vendors. Laying out a white plastic sheet serves a dual purpose. It keeps the produce clean from the dusty ground and creates a bright visual contrast that makes the vivid green ferns pop. A fellow vendor assists in arranging the uniform bundles, a testament to the cooperative nature of these rural trading hubs. The transition from wilderness to storefront is immediate. Within minutes, the first customer approaches. The neatly tied, freshly trimmed bundles sell themselves. Money exchanges hands quickly, validating the hours of intense labor on the mountain. This cash flow provides the means to purchase supplies the forest cannot easily provide. The volume of trade is relentless. Sitting on a low stool, she continuously breaks down the large piles to fill custom orders. Customers often select specific bundles, inspecting the crispness of the leaves before committing. She takes a large bunch from a buyer and efficiently packs it into a blue plastic bag, protecting the delicate fronds for their journey home. Every swift transaction steadily diminishes the massive green mountain of freshly foraged goods. For larger, bulk purchases, visual estimation isn't enough. She utilizes a small, mechanical green scale to determine the exact weight of the loose greens. Precision is critical here. Accurate weights ensure fairness and build vital trust with repeat customers in the tight-knit community. The customer holds the cash ready, watching the dial. The simple, reliable mechanical scale bridges the gap between wild, unpredictable foraging and standardized village economics. It turns raw weight into exact currency. The final price is quickly agreed upon, and the cash is handed over. The direct exchange of goods for currency is immediate and final. As the buyer walks away with a heavy bag of fresh produce, the labor of the day is officially monetized. The transaction is seamless. With the inventory sold out, she tallies the thick stack of bills. This is the true cycle of self-sufficiency. The river and the forest provided the raw capital, but human endurance, engineering, and endless labor converted it into tangible security. She folds the empty white tarp and lifts the lightweight basket. In the end, structure, landscape, and daily routine operate as one system, a place that produces, protects, and sustains itself. Tomorrow, the river will flow, the ferns will grow, and the work will begin again.